Okay, so the U.S. relationship with Great Britain and France. The XYZ affair is going to result in a quasi war, which just means like a sort of kind of war. The French were upset about Jay's treaty with Great Britain. So the French issued an order to seize American merchant ships. So we send diplomats, and the French diplomats, we called them, or the press called them X, Y, and Z. They bribe or attempt to bribe our diplomats. Like they said, well, you'd have to pay this much to see Prime Minister Talleyrand. And so it makes our diplomats furious, and they send this out to the press, and it kind of starts a sort of war with France. We're kind of just a turmoil with France. The War of 1812 is about the British impressment of our sailors and merchant ships. Impressment is when the British would take over an American ship and impress our sailors, would put them on their boats and make them fight for the British. And you say, well, they can't make you do anything. Well, when you're on a ship out in the middle of nowhere, and basically your choice is be thrown overboard or, stay alive on the ship, you tend to stay alive on the ship, okay? We felt the British were supplying the natives with guns to fight us as well, so we're going to be upset about that. So we end up declaring war and beat the British a second time. But they did burn the White House. We're going to talk about both of these things in much more detail later. The French had Napoleon to deal with, so they're not going to be much involved in that. In the war, they're not going to be much help, except they kind of set us up. Napoleon's going to lie to us, but, that's Napoleon. What do you expect? So then we got the Monroe Doctrine. We were not happy with the Europeans interfering with the Western Hemisphere, especially Latin America. Monroe issues this threat. That's kind of what it is. It's a threat about staying out of the Western Hemisphere, and it's going to work. We don't really have, at the time, the military to back up the threat, but everybody's going to believe it, and it will work. So here we have a squabble of words, which is the Quasi War, the XYZ affair. We have a war, the War of 1812, and then we have a threat. Okay? So then, to fill this out, we got the Quasi War, 1796. John Adams is the president. American people got angry. The French tried to bribe us and causes a quasi-war with France. And then the War of 1812 was a war. 1812, James Madison would go to war with the British for the second time and win again. This causes U.S. nationalism. Then we've got the Monroe Doctrine, a threat. In 1823, James Monroe. We issue a threat to the world that no one should attempt to take any country in the Western Hemisphere, and it works. Okay, so I'm going to see if this video is going to work.